We're going to have a bit of a change in the program because the Commission is here. So we are going to listen to a keynote speech from Dubravka Šuica. She's the Vice President for Democracy and Demography at the European Commission. And a fireside chat will follow, moderated by Michalis Moutselos from the University of Cyprus on the citizens' participation in a democracy. The knowledge partner for this fireside chat is the European Commission representation in Cyprus. Whilst we're waiting for everybody to get ready, I would like to just remind you all to keep your mobile phones on silent mode. There aren't any breaks, as I mentioned in the beginning, so you will be able to have nibbles and coffee outside near the booths. And please, 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 when you're using headsets for translation and interpretation, when you've done with them, just put them back in the boxes or deliver them at the door. And also, if you need to ask any questions, if you want to pose any questions to the panel speakers, download the Slido app and enter the code #Cyprus Forum 2022. And I think we are ready. Yeah. Bear with us and we're ready to begin. I'll just remind you that we are about to hear a keynote speech from Dubravka Šuica. She's the Vice President for Democracy and Demography at the European Commission. And a fireside chat will follow, moderated by Michalis Moutselos from the University of Cyprus on the citizens' participation, it's too early in the morning, participation in a democracy. Our knowledge partner for this fireside chat is the European Commission representation in Cyprus.
Morning. Morning. Good morning to everybody. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here with you in person today. Many thanks go to the many partners organizing this event. Today's forum couldn't come at a better time. I'm grateful for the opportunity it offers to discuss a number of pressing issues. I say this as the European Commission Vice President in charge of Democracy and Demography, and as a former mayor of one small city in Croatia, the city of Dubrovnik. And as a former mayor with continued links to the grassroots of local politics, those grassroots tell me that people are sometimes feeling left behind. Those grassroots tell me that the center is not holding as well as it could. We must be careful of the extremes on both left and the right of our political spectrum. We cannot leave a vacuum for less constructive narratives to fill. Recent elections results are a warning. In many ways, this is our climate change moment. We have to act now. Later will be too late. We must pull together at all levels and build democratic resilience from within. This is my first message today to you. My second message is that even as we face a number of challenges, there is still a lot to do. And we are doing. As part of my mandate, I was leading the Commission's work on the Conference on the Future of Europe. Over 1 year, through the conference, we gave an opportunity to citizens to deliberate with each other. And they could deliberate in an inclusive, safe, and transparent public space. I have always insisted on keeping citizens at the center of the process. If the conference is to be considered a success, and I believe it is, then we owe this success in the first place to the citizens who produce concrete results. The proposals contain the aspirations of 800 randomly selected citizens who dedicated their time to deliberating on the future European Union they want to live and work in. The European Commission is working on the conference proposals in view of our work program for 2023. President von der Leyen's recent State of the Union address set the scene for the Commission's work program for next year. Democracy was the thread running through her entire speech. She mentioned a number of important actions that respond directly to citizens' proposals. This shows that our engagement with citizens is not restricted to elections, but goes much deeper. Together with citizens, what we have achieved is significant. Our communication from June this year is one of a number of responses to citizens' proposals. The communication embeds deliberative democracy into policy making. We are putting a vision into concrete action. The conference has shown the seeds for a significant change in policy making at the European Union level. The conference coincided with an unparalleled health crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic forced us to adapt. Democracy cannot stop for a pandemic. We had to ensure that citizens maintain their deliberative space, their voice, their input and contributions. This is especially important in times of crisis, when some may have the reflex of restricting the democratic space. Then, just as we were getting ahead of the COVID-19 curve, another crisis arose. War raised its ugly head on our continent once again. In stark contrast to the Kremlin's aggressions, citizens of the conference took the initiative to stand in solidarity with Ukraine. I will always remember the brave Ukrainians who spoke at the conference plenary in March earlier this year. We gave them a much-needed safe space for their voice. Providing this safe space is an important point, and I will return to it later. And I would have liked to stop mentioning crisis now, but the truth is we are not done yet. Our energy supply faces a number of challenges. The cost of living is increasing. Citizens are feeling the pinch and face decisions about their daily bread. To get through this crisis, we must engage fully with them. I have personally lived through a war, so I know how important this is. Now more than ever, citizens must have an inclusive, safe and transparent public space where they can contribute and shape our policy making. This will help us to deliver for them. Most of all, in these times of mis- and disinformation, creating this public space for citizens to participate and deliberate helps to build trust with citizens. It offers an opportunity to share facts and information and provide access to experts. It is vital that citizens trust that we are responding to their needs. And it is vital for us politicians and policymakers that we have our citizens on board. To build trust, we are, as I said, following up on the proposals of the Conference on the Future of Europe. Providing citizens with feedback on their inputs puts a seal of legitimacy on this process. Let us not shy away from engaging with citizens on what we have already done for them. For example, the European climate law or the recent Better Internet for Kids, or those initiatives the Commission has already proposed and which the Council and the European Parliament are called upon to adopt. For example, new pact on migration. And I must refer also to new initiatives such as on mental health. Citizens explicitly ask for it. The Commission is delivering on this new policy area. This stems from the conference as well as from the groundbreaking work on the European Care Strategy that the Commission adopted in the first week of this month. It is also important to explain why in some cases we did not or could not address a specific policy issue. Some of the 49 proposals can be implemented rather swiftly by the institutions. However, others have a more thorough reflection, or even treaty change in some cases. The European Commission acknowledges that there is much untapped potential in the current treaties. The Commission will always be on the side of those who want to reform the European Union and to make it work better. The Commission stands ready to get involved in the process wherever this is required or whenever this is required under the treaties. Citizens' engagement complements representative democracy. Having held elected office at the local, national, and European level, I truly believe this. Voting in elections every 4 or 5 years cannot be enough for most citizens to participate in their democracy. Communication is a vital component of citizens' engagement. That is why, on the 2nd of December, together with the European Parliament and the Council, we will organize a feedback event with citizens. It will be an important moment to communicate and explain how the 3 institutions are following up, to take stock of progress. And I welcome the commitment of Czech presidency to work with us on this event. You know that the Commission developed a multilingual digital platform, both as an integral part of the conference, as a venue for debate, but also as a tool for outreach to citizens at all levels. It was the hub of the conference and the forum for exchange in all 24 languages. With the view to creating an ecosystem of democratic engagement, we will improve our online engagement now with citizens through Have Your Say portal. We want to provide a hub where citizens can easily participate, provide input, and receive feedback. All of us know that citizens are not an object of democracy or European Union policies. They are and they should be participants. And we must facilitate their participation both online and offline. President von der Leyen, in her State of the Union, has underlined that participative and deliberative democracy works. Inspired by the conference, we intend that European citizens' panels should become part of the way we make policy, part of our legislative process, to make recommendations before we present any key legislative proposal. The first such citizens' panel will address the issue of food waste. This item is currently featured in the plenary debates and on the digital platform. It is part of the first proposal of the final conference report. We are currently recruiting our citizens through random selection. Who knows, perhaps someone here today or online will have the opportunity to participate. This also brings me to the participation of Cyprus in the conference and its role in the democratic innovation. First of all, I want to thank you for your role in the conference, in particular the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the events it organized. You have brought citizens' engagement to the Mediterranean, and I note your ambition does not stop there. I welcome your work on a national strategy for active citizenship and participatory governance. I understand that you are also discussing the national plan for a citizens' initiative that is under discussion at the legal committee of the Cypriot Parliament. Your work will sure inspire other member states as we build this ecosystem of democratic innovation. And, dear participants, dear ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, the European Union has created a European democratic space that crosses ages, borders, cultures, and histories. It is very much a transnational space. We are responsible for this space. We have the moral duty to nurture and protect it for our children and for our grandchildren across all generations. With a view to building democratic resilience from within, we are looking at how to best equip citizens as they engage in democracy. This is part of our thinking on the Defense Democracy Package scheduled for adoption next year. Our European Union needs the vision, engagement and participation of all its people across all generations to build a better future and better democracy. One that is fit for the future. We can build on European integration through greater involvement of citizens, communities, and local, regional, and national institutions. This is a process that can inspire governance at all levels across the European Union and across the globe, as others look to us and our work in deliberative democracy to see if and how this could fit their particular circumstance. Thanks to our courage to come together to deliberate on our common future, European democracy will never be the same again. And, dear participants, I count on you, I count on all of you here today to join us in tuning this vision into concrete action for the benefit of our citizens.
Did you know? It's your right as a citizen of the European Union to call for change on topics that matter to you. Do you feel that something is not right? You have the power to change it. Discover how with the European Citizens Initiative. By using the power of an initiative, you can influence EU policies in areas like climate, energy, mobility, agriculture, consumer protection, or digital rights. And it's easier than you think. Visit the ECI website, check out the ongoing initiatives, and decide if you want to support one. Spread the word to your friends too. Do you have an idea for a new initiative? Partner with citizens from 7 different EU countries to launch your own brand new initiative. Initiatives need to collect 1 million signatures from across the European Union in 1 year. The ECI Forum is there to help you on this journey. Sign or launch an initiative today.
We're good? Okay. Thank you for this speech and welcome to Nicosia. It's very nice to have you here. We're supposed to have a fireside chat, so it can be more informal as well. I am Michalis Moutselos from the University of Cyprus, and I will use the privilege of chairing this fireside chat to start with a couple of questions. First, on the conference on the future of Europe. You talked about it in your speech. It was a very nice initiative. It led to concrete proposals. Now, some of them would require a change of treaties. You touched upon it a little bit, but I would like to press you to talk a little bit more about it. Would the Commission be in favor of, amending some of our treaties to cater to some of those great proposals that came out of the conference?
Thank you very much for your question, and let me try to explain. First of all, as I already said in my initial statement, the conference was envisaged to make a very broad public space to our citizens to participate. What we wanted to achieve, and I hope we did, we achieved and we managed, is to include European citizens in the process of policy making. We wanted to make European citizens, people from Cyprus, people from Greece, people from all over Europe, to be parts of the policy making process, to feel that they can influence policy making at European level. The reason for this was, or is, because citizens sometimes feel distant or remote from Brussels, and they call it Brussels bubble. And we wanted to burst this Brussels bubble to show that you, as citizen of Cyprus or whoever, student or whoever is present here, can influence European policy via multilingual digital platform, be it through different panels, be it as randomly selected citizens. And this is what I think we achieved, and the final result is 49 proposals. But you are mentioning treaty change. Of course, for some of these proposals, treaty change would be needed. But we have enough space within the existing treaty, and we have to explore whatever we have in the existing treaty in order to meet the citizens' demands. Of course, the institutions, especially European Parliament, wanted to change some institutional issues, and this is what they asked. If you were listening to the State of the Union speech of our President, one of her highlights was that she and us in Commission, we are in favor of triggering convention in order to finally change the treaty. But as I said, this is not our final goal. Our final goal was to make this democratic space broad and close to our citizens. When we said that we are in favor of a triggering convention, it means that we won't oppose it, that we will do our role according to Article 48, and the Commission will fulfill its role. But so far as I know, and so far as I hope all of you know, we are three institutions: European Parliament, European Commission, and European Council. So before we start this procedure, we need unanimous position from 27 capitals, which means European Council the ball is in their field at the moment. So we are in favor, but as I said, this is not our final goal, but we will be ready to do our role. And when we talk about changing treaty, it's to be precise, our primary goal is not to change institutional issues, but, for example, the President said, I would like to have intergenerational solidarity to be enshrined in the treaty. So this is something which is important. This is something which we have to take into account. And it's especially important for me because my portfolio is on democracy, but not only democracy, but also demography. And for me, it is very important to have this solidarity between generations. Of course, there is sometimes a problem on unanimity. And we think that there is a time to change this unanimity, but at the same time you have many smaller states, like the country I know best, which oppose this because they think that they will lose their voice in the Council. So this is very sensitive, politically sensitive, and should be debated thoroughly. And of course, if we open convention, fine, but it doesn't mean that we will end with changing these rules. But unanimity rule could be changed through existing rules, which is passerelle clause, as you might know. So this is about the treaty.
Great. You mentioned intergenerational solidarity, and it is a very important and pertinent issue because of what we saw during the pandemic, namely that younger people bore a lot of the brunt of the COVID policies and the lockdowns. And my question would be, how do we turn the pandemic into an opportunity to help young people through technologies or through other initiatives? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Thank you for this question. There is always a chance to turn challenge into opportunity, of course. But if I may be personal and if I may share some thoughts with you. At the beginning of this mandate, if you remember, we had 6 priorities, but there were 2 key priorities. One was European Green Deal and climate change, as you know, Green Deal. And the second one was Digital Europe and connecting Europe through digitals. Nobody could have envisaged on the 1st of December, when we started this mandate, that we will have these 2 crises. First crisis was pandemic of COVID-19, which you mentioned. And then we started realizing that we are digitally literate, that we can work via teleworking, that we are capable of doing our jobs via digitals, which means that we have to, of course, upgrade this, but Digital Europe is one of our priorities, and it was the right decision. Second decision was EU Green Deal, climate neutral Europe by 2050, and so on and so on. Little by little, the war came. We realized that we are heavily dependent on Russian Russian fuel, Russian fossil fuels, gas, oil, and so on. But before that, we started massively investing in renewables. And we want to get rid of Russian gas and Russian oil. We want to be independent. So these two choices at the beginning of mandate in 2019, when nobody could have envisaged what is going to happen, and nobody could have said that COVID was coming, and that war would start. So we did a really right choice for our citizens, and this is something what I wanted to share with you. But there is third transition, which is underpinning all our policies, and it is demographic change, which is happening all over Europe. And we have to admit that Europe is an aging continent, that this can be justified by telling you a few facts. And one is that in the last 50 years, Europeans on average live 10 years more. So when you ask me about transforming challenges into opportunities, this is very good news. We live 10 years more, but at the same time, we have the same work span till 63, 65, depending on the member state. So how are we going to maintain our long-term care, our pension systems, our healthcare systems? This is something to be debated and to be solved in the future. But of course, European Commission does not want to interfere into member states' competencies, but at the same time, we think about this, we come out with our recommendations, and we are trying to help our member states. And if you want, I'll tell you, people from EPSCO Council ask our ministers, ask European Commission to help them, although they know that this is their competence. But at the same time, without Europe, without European money, without our proper funding, they wouldn't be able to live through this COVID-19 period. With our SURE instrument, you remember that we helped all small companies and all companies in order to survive, and European economies survived in the end. So, of course, you are asking me about pandemic and development of technologies. Of course, we use artificial intelligence, we use robotics, and this was very helpful, and this is very helpful, and this is one of the ways how we are going to solve this demographic change. With the proper investment in, proper use of cohesion funding. This is very important, but it always depends on the local and national authorities. What will they choose to, where will they choose to invest this money in order to create environment for citizens to live better, of course, there is a freedom of movement, and we have always to respect this, but at the same time, people feel safe in their environment, and if they live if they have good living conditions, good standard, they won't choose to leave their country or their village or countryside, whatever. And artificial intelligence is also there to help if there is a shortage in the labor market. And of course, migration, but this is a very sensitive issue, and I won't start talking about this at the moment.
Great. One aspect of demographic change that is of particular importance in Cyprus is the fact that sometimes urbanization happens at such high speed that it leaves rural, in the case of Cyprus, mountainous communities depopulated, basically. So I wanted to ask you, what can the Commission do to reverse this trend of depopulation in rural and mountainous areas?
Commission is doing a lot. The reason why we have this new portfolio, which is dedicated to myself on demography, is
that's why I'm asking.
Is this.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, in last few decades, we were talking about opposition between East and West in Europe, Eastern countries and Western. Now, I will dare say there is a position between rural versus urban. And this is something not only Cyprus, but all over Europe. young people tend to move to big urban areas because of, why? Because there is a lack of services, a lack of infrastructure in rural areas. If you look at Europe, because at the beginning of the mandate, we did first ever report on demographic change. What this report showed, that, which we were not aware maybe of this, 80% of European territory is covered by rural areas. And in this 80% of geographically covered Europe, there is only 1/3 of European population. So only 130 million people live in this, on this 80% of land, which means there is a huge, vast territory which is empty and people could live there. And this was especially evident during COVID-19 pandemics, when people tend to move out from big cities to the countryside, because virus spread less at that moment. So what we are doing and what we did, we adopted a long-term vision for rural areas from now till 2040. And what we wanted to do, what we wanted to achieve with this, is to make these rural areas attractive and prosperous again. But how are we going to do that? So first we have to bring back services, kindergartens, schools, shops, buses, transport, but without this digital Europe, which I mentioned at the beginning, without bringing broadband internet in all villages, in all mountains, on all islands, we wouldn't be able to create new jobs and to create opportunities. So broadband internet is above everything in order to create new jobs, to create new opportunities, and to make people feel in the villages as same as they feel living in big skyscrapers, which is, you have better air quality, you have, everything is better there. So nowadays there is a motto: it's not important where you are, but how well you are connected. And this was something which is especially conspicuous during COVID-19 crisis.
Thank you very much. We already have a question or two from our online audience, I believe. So let's maybe take one of those. 2022 asks someone from the audience, is EU Year of Youth? What message would you send to young Cypriots about participation in democratic processes? How can they be involved more?
You're talking about 2022, this year?
Yeah.
As you know, this year was proclaimed as the Year of Youth, and next year, 2023, was proclaimed by our President and by European institutions as the European Year of Skills. So this is interconnected. So we are what I forgot to tell you when I was talking about Conference on the Future of Europe, you know that the preconditions for participation in the conference was